Hey everyone, thank you for joining us today in this information session for the Aged Care Collaborative Flagship Projects. My name is Holly Sparrow and I'm the Senior Manager of Strategic Projects at ARIIA. I'll be facilitating the session today. I'd just like to begin by acknowledging the Kaurna people, the traditional custodians whose ancestral lands that I'm hosting from today. I pay my respects to elders past and present, and I value their ongoing connection to the land and cultural beliefs. And I extend my respect to the traditional custodians of the lands that you are all joining us from today. Presenting online with me today is Dr. Rebecca Bilton, Research and Program Director at ARIIA, Michelle Church, Chief Executive of St Basil's Homes in South Australia, Associate Professor Katrina Radford and Dr. Ellie Meissner from Griffith University, and Dr. Maggie Hirsch. And we have quite a lot to talk about today. So if you have any questions related to the projects or the application process, please write them in the Q&A, which you can access in the top banner of this meeting. We'll answer questions if we can, but what we will do is collate a frequently asked questions document and circulate after the session. And if you have any questions specific to your organisation, please email us and we can talk to you directly. The email is agedcarecollaborative@aria.org.au, and I'll have that on screen for everyone at the end of the session. We're also recording the session, so it will be made available online for catch-up. So I'd now like to introduce Dr. Rebecca Bilton, the Research and Program Director here at ARIIA, and she will provide an introduction to the Aged Care Collaborative and the Flagship projects.
Thanks, Holly. Hello and welcome to everybody who's online or who will join this via catch-up later on. We are very pleased to launch this Aged Care Collaborative. I'm going to give a very quick background because there's a lot of information to cover today and most of you want us to cut to the chase. So just the very quick background is ARIIA, which is Aged Care Research and Industry Innovation Australia, are a Commonwealth funded entity that support the national aged care sector, both residential and home care sectors, to upskill and increase capability, to embed evidence-based practice, to support them with the very challenging conditions that are happening in aged care in terms of constant change, many of the reform initiatives, the new increased strengthens quality standards, as well as the upcoming changes which are extremely important for the home care sector in terms of support at home. So we recognise that this is an extremely busy and challenging time, but this is the opportunity that we have to help the sector to build capability to address those issues. Our aged care sector is at a point where we are not going to be able to sustain business as usual in the way that we have done in the past. We have a lot of passionate people working in aged care, and so ARIIA's strong intent is to support the sector to grow those skills themselves, to be able to embed evidence-based practice, provide high-quality care, and undertake new initiatives and innovations to address, I guess, and provide services in a way that older Australians across Australia want to receive their services. And so, yeah, very pleased to support these initiatives in a different way that allows the sector to come together to drive change for itself and to also be the ones to test those opportunities across a very diverse sector that we have, and then be able to share those learnings nationally. So, yeah, without further ado, thank you for your attendance today. We are going to talk about the program more broadly, which is the Aged Care Collaborative. But the majority of this program is focused on our two flagship projects, Flagship 1 and Flagship 2, which Holly will go into more detail in a minute. Those two projects are designed to invest and implement evidence-based solutions to address complex workforce challenges as collaborative consortia. We do have, which is not the topic of conversation today, but there are links available, accelerator grants, which are the small grants looking at testing initiatives in the workforce augmentation space. But for the majority of the rest of the presentation, we're going to focus today on the two flagship projects, unpack them one at a time to, I guess, demonstrate where we see the value to the sector in participating in both this initiative and also in embedding these sorts of skills in their own organisations. Thanks, Holly.
Great. Thanks, Beck. So as Beck has explained, the Aged Care Collaborative will fund two flagship projects. So these projects provide a unique opportunity for aged care providers to work together to address the complex workforce challenges that are underway and we're being faced with through this period of change and reform. The projects have a strong focus on building workforce capability and sector collaboration so that providers and workers are empowered with those skills to be flexible and agile and innovative in response to change. So Flagship Project 1 will enhance role clarity, communication and career pathways with a flexible leadership model. This will optimise workforce utilisation in residential and home care through the co-design and mapping of a flexible role matrix. So this project leverages the evidence established from a successful ARIIA grant-funded pilot intervention that was developed and tested by St Basil's Homes in South Australia and Griffith University, and we'll hear more about that shortly. So up to 6 implementation sites will be selected to participate in this project. Flagship Project 2 will empower workers with data literacy and capability to drive quality care. So this project will develop and embed data capabilities among aged care staff by enhancing the use of routinely collected data with a focus on pressure injuries and wound care. And for this project, up to 8 implementation sites will be selected to participate. Both of the projects will be led by ARIIA as the evaluation and project implementation partner, supported by embedded subject matter experts. So this wraparound support is really intended to allow the sites to just really focus on implementation and how the project works in their context. The projects will run for 12 months from July this year to June next year, and participants will be supported throughout the entire process. So applications are open to Australian aged care providers who would like one of their residential facilities or home care regions to participate as one of the implementation sites. The applications opened on Monday of this week and they will close on Thursday, the 24th of April. And as I mentioned, this opportunity is available to aged care providers who would like to participate as an implementation site. So applications from pre-formed consortia or partnerships aren't eligible. There is a separate application process for each flagship project. Providers can apply for both if they'd like to, but you will be required to submit a separate application for each. The applications will be assessed with an emphasis on ensuring representation across diverse aged care contexts. So this includes a mix of residential and home care, metropolitan and regional, rural and remote, small and large organisations, and for-profit and not-for-profit. So the selected providers will form 2 consortia to implement the projects with support from ARIIA. In terms of the funding, the selected providers will each receive grants of up to $120,000 to implement the 12-month project in its defined stages, and a matched co-contribution is required. This can be cash or in kind or a combination. So in bringing together a mix of aged care organisations, as I mentioned, that represent the diversity of the sector, the intention is really that these projects will provide valuable evidence and learnings for the broader sector on how to implement solutions in a variety of contexts. And as part of that, throughout the projects, the participating organisations will come together in facilitated online sessions and workshops. And the intent is that they'll learn together and discuss progress and challenges and share the outcomes alongside each other. So we're looking for providers that are really excited to work with other providers and are aligned to these collaboration principles. So on the screen we have, trust and courage, being inclusive and person-centred, focused on collective learning, national impact, and of course being driven by the purpose of a better future for aged care. Applications will be assessed by an independent advisory group based on these selection criteria. So we're looking for alignment to the collaboration principles and the project topic, leadership support and endorsement, a level of organisational readiness to undertake this project, personnel with the necessary skills and expertise to undertake the project with support, of course, from ARIIA and subject matter experts, appropriate project management, communication and change strategies internally, and as I mentioned, representation of diverse aged care settings in the selected mix of sites. So I know that's a lot of information in a really short space of time, and all of this is explained in more detail in the project information and application guidelines, which are available on the ARIIA website. So I will link to that later, but please I really encourage you to have a thorough read through of that, and I guess note that there is separate documentation for each flagship project. So now we'd really like to provide more information about flagship project number 1. So this project is focused, as I mentioned, on enhancing role clarity, communication and career pathways with a flexible leadership model. So this aims to optimise workforce utilisation in residential and home care settings through the co-design of a flexible role matrix, streamlining responsibilities and accountabilities and communication. So as part of the project, each implementation site will develop and implement an intervention that addresses their specific opportunities and challenges that have been identified through the mapping. For example, the introduction of a new leadership role, process improvements, enhanced governance, and communication mechanisms. The project has been scoped into 4 key phases across the 12-month implementation period. It will begin with project initiation, followed in phase 2 by internal consultation, which will analyse leadership roles and boundaries through observation and interviews and world cafes with staff and other stakeholders to identify strengths and challenges and improvement areas. And this whole process will be supported by ARIIA and subject matter experts. Phase 3 will involve mapping this across a role matrix. And by the end of phase 3, each implementation site will have developed a proposed intervention specific to their context to address one of the challenges or opportunities that they identified in the phases 2 and 3. So from phases 1 to 3, there's up to $50,000 of the grant available to fund these 3 phases along with the matched co-contribution. And then phase 4 will focus on implementing the chosen intervention and evaluating that. And for that phase, up to $70,000 in the funding will be available. And throughout the whole project, participants will collaborate and share their knowledge in the community of practice and participate in those facilitated workshops and coaching sessions. On completion of this project, it's anticipated that each implementation site will have mapped and redefined their accountabilities and roles and communication channels. And this is intended to provide clarity and efficiency, positive change to task allocation, and improve staff satisfaction and reduced stress. Improved communication between residents and clients, families and staff, and enhanced career opportunities for all staff and a stronger workplace culture. As part of the collaborative, being involved with other providers and the network will build that connection with like-minded organisations, and also contributing valuable evidence and learnings that can be shared across the organisation and also the broader sector. So as I mentioned earlier, this project leverages the evidence that was established from a very successful ARIIA grant-funded project developed and tested by St Basil's Homes in South Australia and Griffith University. So I'm very pleased to introduce Michelle Church, Chief Executive of St Basil's Homes, who will share some more information about their pilot project. Hi, Michelle.
Thanks, Holly, and welcome everybody. It's really lovely and absolutely exciting to be here and sharing the process that we went through at St Basil's, understanding that everybody and every organisation is somewhat different, and there will be something that hopefully the successful applicants will develop that will add even further, I think, support to what we've developed so far. So we started off wanting to really imagine the workforce roles across a lot of different, I guess, roles within our organisation, because we felt that there was too much burden placed on the clinical leaders in the organisation. So we wanted to really unpack that and consider how we could support our clinical leaders to step into the top of their role scope, as opposed to being distracted on a daily basis by all the white noise that occurs in a day in aged care. And I think we all understand what that white noise looks like. I don't think we've eliminated all the white noise, but we've done a really good process of redistributing that noise. So I had a firm view of what I thought it looked like at the start, but I have to say the process that we went through, especially under the guidance of Ali and Kat, our Griffith University researchers, and utilising the co-design process with World Cafes, we landed on something a little bit different. And I think where we landed actually was a better position. So I think leaders need to probably put aside their own views so that you can really get the best out of the staff input that comes through a World Cafe process. So we held a number of World Cafes with multiple different staff across our organisation. We created a really safe space in those World Cafes so that people's views were tabled, and they were honest views, even if they were views that were, I guess, negative. So we created a safe space for all of that. And I guess with the help of having like a university experts such as Kat and Ali, who are not just university academics, they actually really understand aged care, having worked in aged care themselves. They were able to reassure the staff that what we end up with is something that will be absolutely collaborative in nature and with true co-design intent. So it allowed the staff to come along the journey with us and be part of the problem resolution, which I think was really quite powerful at the end of the day. The intervention that we landed on through all of this process was a dyad leadership model where we paired a clinical leader with a non-clinical leader across a smaller resident cohort. We also dedicated staff into those smaller resident cohorts as best as we can. And we also put some support service staff into there, which we hadn't done before. So that was a new thing. And we dedicated a lifestyle team member into those small cohorts as well. The outcomes have been extraordinary. When we first started this process, our clinicians were quite threatened by having a non-clinical leader work alongside of them. We did another round of feedback sessions with Kat and Ellie just recently, and all the clinicians are on board. They actually see the benefit of having somebody share the load for them, especially as the non-clinical leaders really take courage, and they have the lead responsibility for family relationships, managing complaints, and really partnering with the clinical leaders when they need to jointly manage any sort of complaints that have a clinical undertone to them. So the clinical leaders feel really supported as part of the process. They feel like they've got their work balance back in charge, that they've got the ability to manage what they need to do now from a clinical space. So we think that that's been an excellent outcome. Some of the other things that we found along the way was the communication significantly improved for our residents, our families, and even our staff, because they knew who to go to. We made it really clear through the role matrix process whose role was to do what in the organisation, and we communicated that widely. So I'd be very surprised now if somebody in St. Basil's doesn't know who to go to if they have a problem, and that includes our families. So that's been a really wonderful outcome. The residents love the continuity of staff, and we all know that, and most of us are already doing that in aged care. But now they also know who the point of contact is for any escalated resolutions, because it is that one person, and it's not a revolving sort of a clinical person that comes in and out of the unit. So that's been a really good outcome as well. I think that's probably all I need to talk about at this stage, and give some space to somebody else to have something to say as well. So thank you.
That's great. Thanks so much, Michelle, and congratulations on that process and the outcomes that you've seen at St. Basil's, and thank you for sharing today. So I'd now like to introduce Associate Professor Katrina Radford and Dr. Ellie Meissner from Griffith University. So Kat and Ellie are the researchers who partnered with Michelle and St. Basil's on their project. And they will be providing the subject matter expertise and support to participants throughout Flagship Project 1. So as Michelle was just explaining, this will be especially critical to provide the participating sites with support to map out their roles and activities and undertake that co-design so that they can really identify opportunities for improvement. So hello, Katrina. Hi, Ellie. We've just heard from Michelle about St. Basil's approach to the leadership model and their success of applying the dyad solution that suited their context. What are some of the enablers and barriers that you've observed throughout this process that might be applicable to aged care organisations more broadly?
Thanks, Holly. Ali and I met before, so in order to reduce time, she nominated me to speak. So this comes from both of us. We're very excited to be as subject matter experts. This particular approach to real co-design, where we don't know the solution until we actually get the data and the voices from the ground up, was one of the significant enabling factors. And in this process, actually hearing all those voices, hearing the concerns, hearing all the negativity, hearing all the positivity, and identifying those change champions, but also acknowledging where everyone is on their change journey, was really key to making this successful. Along with really strong leadership, not only from the top through Michelle, who is fabulous, and all of your leaders, I'm sure, are fabulous as well, but also from that middle management, because we saw how many times and how much effort was involved in actually having an open door policy and actually voicing the concerns, hearing the concerns at a site level, as well as at an organisational level. And that was one of the enablers for success, because not everyone jumped on the board and completed the journey with us. And that's part of change, right? We understand that people will get off the bus, and that's okay. But it's about acknowledging that. It's about, if we're going to move forward and actually do something different, then let's hear all the voices, let's do the change management process well, and have that strong commitment from leaders, but also keep that open door policy. Demi Perkins, who Michelle didn't mention, but she is an incredible HR lead down at St Basil's. She did some incredible work around the matrix itself, and I think that it would be wrong of us not to acknowledge the significant contribution that she made, and also all the HR people that will be part of this project will make, because it does require, I guess, knowing the business in that intricate detail level, but also being open to conversations and mentoring and coaching internally as well as externally. And I think that in itself was also one of the key success criteria. And I'm conscious of time, and I've got 1 minute left, I believe.
Hey, go ahead.
And I think Michelle touched on this, that clinicians often feel threatened when we do something different in leadership and aged care, and that's okay. But it's not about threatening them, and it's not about taking their jobs away or anything like that. It's about supporting them, and it's about making every day count towards the end goal, whatever that is for your organisation. And I think one of the barriers for this project is not accepting the change, if that makes sense. So if your leaders aren't in the space where they can be a bit more flexible, and they don't have, that fixed mindset needs to go out, because as Michelle said, there was that vision and it didn't turn out that vision, but it did blossom into something more beautiful. And that's the beauty of co-design. And that's one of the great outcomes of this project.
Fantastic. Thank you, Katrina.
That's all right.
Sorry.
Oh, no, I was just going to say, Ellie, did I get it all? Is there anything else?
I think so. The only thing I'll probably add is that level of transparency that we really need as a facilitator to be successful in this project. Yeah. So, and that came through everything that Kat and Michelle mentioned. But it's really important to share knowledge and have that transparency in the process, definitely, and the commitment, like Kat, that stood out. The commitment in the daily busyness to make people available, to sit together and share ideas is ultimately what leads to success for this.
Absolutely. And I think that process in itself just makes, can improve culture and engagement just by being asked questions and being heard can be so powerful too for organisations. But of course, with this project, we can take it one step further and actually let it inform a change that's for the better. So that's fantastic. Thank you so much for your contributions, Katrina and Ellie and Michelle. We're really excited to work alongside you to make this a reality for other aged care providers across the country. So thank you. So we are now moving on to talk more about Flagship Project number 2. So this project will focus on empowering data literacy and capability to drive quality care. So this flagship project aims to empower aged care workers with the knowledge and capability to leverage their existing rich data sources to increase quality of care. So it will develop and embed these data capabilities among staff by enhancing the use of routinely collected data for pressure injuries and wound care. So in the context of residential aged care, this will include the quality indicator for pressure injuries. And in the context of home care, this will include routinely collected data related to wound prevention, identification and care. The participants will use data-driven insights to identify an opportunity to address a relevant problem, and they'll be supported to develop and implement an evidence-based intervention specific to their context. And while this project will focus on pressure injuries and wound care, the learnings are intended to be transferable to any other data collected within the organisation. And we know that aged care providers invest significant resources to capture this clinical and person-centred data that really demonstrates the quality of care to consumers and, of course, governing bodies. But beyond mandatory reporting, often this data can be underutilised and perhaps fragmented across the organisation. So we see this as a really compelling opportunity for providers to leverage this data that's already been collected to inform the quality of care and improve outcomes for residents and clients. And of course, data literacy and maturity have been identified by the Royal Commission into Aged Care Quality and Safety and the Aged Care Data and Digital Strategy as important levers to deliver the high quality care. So similar to Flagship 1, this project has 4 key phases over the 12 months. It will begin with project initiation, and then be followed by workshops and capability building in data literacy, facilitated by subject matter experts to really build the capability for workers to identify, interpret and analyse their relevant data and uncover opportunities for improvement or perhaps some problems that might require an intervention. Stage 3 will involve the development of an evidence-based solution to one of those identified problems or opportunities, and the development of an implementation plan, which will be supported by online learning and coaching by ARIIA. So as with Project 1, up to $50,000 of the $120,000 grant will fund those first 3 phases along with the matched co-contribution. And then phase 4 will focus on implementing and evaluating the intervention with up to $70,000 of the grant available for phase 4. And just like Flagship Project 1, there will be support throughout the whole project, and participants will collaborate and share the knowledge with their community of practice and participate in facilitated workshops and coaching with subject matter experts. So on completion of this project, it's anticipated that each site will have empowered their staff with the knowledge, skills and confidence to identify, collect and interrogate data to inform evidence-based approaches, ultimately to increase quality of care. They will have implemented and evaluated a data-driven evidence-based intervention to improve pressure injuries or wound prevention, identification and management, and improvement in the performance on the pressure injury quality indicator. And of course, as well as Flagship 1, they would have established those relationships with a like-minded network, collaborating with the project participants, and also as well contributing valuable evidence and learnings that can be shared across their organisation, again, and broadly the aged care sector. So I'm very pleased to introduce Dr. Maggie Hurt. Maggie has more than 40 years of experience working in health and aged care internationally. She brings a rich and diverse range of experience spanning clinical practice in tertiary teaching hospitals, acute care services, community and low-tech environments, through to research, teaching, executive and CEO positions. Hi, Maggie.
Hi, that sounds like I'm really old. Anyway.
Very wise.
Thanks so much. Yeah.
Thank you for being here. So I guess my question today for you is, given your expertise in using data to drive change, what do you think are the common challenges with using data to improve the quality of care in aged care? And where are the opportunities for the sector to leverage their data?
Yeah, thanks so much, Holly. And hi, everyone. It's great to be here and to be talking about something I feel very passionate about. Firstly, I think there are a lot of challenges around data collection, and one of them, and it's probably for people who work in the sector, understand that we've got lots of silos of data and we don't really know how to connect it. And then there's this other issue too of how do we consistently get good information, good high quality data? How is it consistently collected? And how do we standardize the process? Because, you know, people who understand about data is this saying that says rubbish in, rubbish out. So what we want to do is make sure that there isn't the rubbish going in, shall we say, in terms of quality, reliability, and understand the process of collecting data. And, you know, pressure injuries is a great example. How do we be sure that we're not creating a bias in the way in which we create our data sets around pressure injuries? How often and what's the protocol around the services for doing routine skin integrity checks, for example. And it's a great one because it links so well to nutrition, mobility, and a whole lot of other indexes around a person's well-being. So how we can link that sort of data to a story around the service and how we can improve better informed care and better clinical outcomes for older people is probably a very, very good place to start. When doing this whole process, I think having a team that can be curious and systems thinking in the approach will really help with, because, you know, similar to the other project, you don't know necessarily what you're going to find when you go on this journey. And, you know, there's levels of maturity and sophistication around how we collect and use data. And, you know, at the very beginning level, it's really about how do we make sure that, for example, the care and services electronic records that might be used in a service is accurately reporting or capturing this information on a daily basis from the individual receiving care. And then imagine AI and machine learning and the role that can play once you've got the basics organised around reliability and really good data sets and that reliable information coming through into your systems. You know, the big opportunity here is, of course, around finding predictors to be able to identify deterioration, cognitive and functional decline early enough so that we can prevent falls, for example, improve quality of life and improve the timing of reassessments. And of course, that can have the opportunity of increased funding so that as people are needing more services and support, you're aligning that with the funding model that can help support the business. So it's pretty much a win-win all around if you think about it like that. So, yeah, I'll hand back to you, Holly. That's my 2 bits.
That's great. Thank you, Maggie. And I think what we really heard there from all of the speakers was the value of understanding and co-designing and going through that process to uncover and unpack perhaps what you don't already know, and allowing that to inform the solution. And we've very intentionally structured these projects so that the intervention that will be implemented in the second half of the projects, we haven't defined that yet, because aligned with ARIIA's ethos, and what we know is the best way to approach a problem is really understanding the problem first and looking at evidence to solve that. And I guess the focus for these projects very much in the first instance is looking at the evidence that's already there in your organisations, that's available to you through your staff or your data, and using that to inform the solution and the intervention in a really structured way. So I guess that's that provides really good context to the way we've structured the 4 phases of each of the projects. So that concludes our speaker presentations today. I really hope this has provided some useful information about the projects, and if you're interested in finding out more and applying, please go onto the website through the ARIIA website through the Aged Care Collaborative menu, and you'll find the project information and application guidelines and proposed project implementation plans, which really expand what we've spoken about today in a lot more detail. And we will host another follow-up webinar in the coming weeks, and very open to any inquiries. So please direct them to us on email, and we can answer those or have a further conversation. Given we have a little bit more time today, is there any questions, Hannah, that have popped up that are relevant to answer in the Q&A?
We just have one comment, which I can publish now, but we haven't had any questions come through. But please, if you have any, feel free to pop them on the chat now. Otherwise, very happy to answer any inquiries over email.
Okay, great. Well, thank you so much, everyone, for coming along today, and to our speakers. And we look forward to hearing from you soon. Thanks, everyone.